I love doing these rant videos, but I never really have anything to do, so I thought I might get ready because I wanted to film a couple other videos today, so I thought that this could be fun. I do want to say, I think I've touched on most of these points in a Midnight's Rants video, but I wanted to do something a little bit more structured and a little bit more fun. And it's always fun to talk about things we get annoyed by. So let's get started. The first thing that I absolutely don't understand about the animal community is like animal death jokes. I feel like every time like viewers like ask to see an animal, it's always like they somehow have to retaliate with some type of joke, and it's like, oh, just because I don't show like this animal for like this many months doesn't mean that it's dead. And I completely understand that, like in relation to the pet tubers, because I know that people aren't always the most kind when they ask these things, but at the same time, I just don't think the jokes are funny. And with how many deaths actually do happen in the animal community, and not necessarily because people are like bad pet owners, I think when you have a lot of animals, like a lot of deaths are kind of inevitable, especially with like small pets and things like that that just don't have super long lifespans. I will say, I feel like the animal community has improved because like a year or two ago, I swear like every single week there was a new animal that was being announced dead, which is a little bit problematic. I do feel like the animal community has improved a bunch in that sense. I just don't find the jokes funny, especially with a lot of the instances where pet tubers have lost a large majority of animals and they don't talk about it for months. I often feel like viewers' assumptions aren't really that far-fetched. Another mini rant with that, I don't understand how it takes YouTubers so long to like announce updates like pet deaths or pet rehomings and things like that. I completely understand where they're coming from because you guys know I lost my sugar glider Mocha and I never made like any dedicated videos about it. I've talked about it in a lot of other videos and I'm pretty transparent if people ask. I feel like there's a lot of shadiness around that type of stuff, and I think it's hard because a lot of the viewers, we feel very connected to the animals. Like, I know you guys love my rabbits especially, and I try to keep you updated on everything that happens with them because they're my rabbits, but they're also your rabbits. Like when you're sharing them on the internet, I think that there's some like responsibilities you have to accept, especially with a lot of the audience on PetTube being so young. I just wish YouTubers were like more kind and understanding when it came towards that. And yeah, just let's stop with the animal death jokes. They're not funny. Another thing that makes zero sense to me is all the negativity surrounding kids owning animals. Most people watching pet tubers are quite young, and a lot of these pet tubers had pets when they were kids. A lot of the same pets that they had now, they got when they were like 14, 15, 16, even 17 is still a kid. So I don't understand why there's like so much hate on kids owning animals. And I always feel like there's so much like passive aggressiveness when people are doing care guides, but this is not recommended for children. And I can understand that perspective because I have rabbits and I don't think rabbits are necessarily the best kids pet, but at the same time, I don't really want to be negative towards anyone owning animals. There's such few people that are actually willing to like put in the time and effort that it takes to like understand the care that an animal needs. And the people watching these pet tubers are the minority of people that are willing to put in the work. So I'm not really sure why you tell that audience not to get a pet. Like the people that honestly shouldn't be buying an animal aren't watching your video anyways. So I feel like it's kind of preaching to the choir when you're just emphasizing these things. When you're a kid, your life changes so much. There's just a lot of changes that happen like 17 onwards. After you graduate high school, I feel like everyone's life path is completely different and it's a lot less predictable. For example, when you're 32, you probably know where you're going to be in the next 10 years. But when you're like 17, you have no idea where you're going to be at 17. I'm almost 20, guys, and I don't even know where I'm going to be in like 2 years. So in a way, it is difficult to buy animals like rabbits who live 10 to 12 years. I got my rabbit when I was 15. And even though I knew that I should have him his entire life and I was prepared for that 10 to 12 years, at 15, how can you comprehend where you're going to be at 27? I'm very grateful that I have been able to keep them, and I think that's a great thing, but at the same time, I don't feel like rehoming is the worst situation in the world. Also, I think it's a little bit ironic that rehoming has such a terrible stigma. I know a lot of people commented on my Victoria Rachel video, and they're like, did you know she rehomed her gecko? You shouldn't like support her anymore. And I don't have any issue with her rehoming Saffron. She explained really well in her video why she felt it was a decision, but to be honest, I really don't feel like it needs to be justified at all. If you have an animal and you're no longer interested in that animal, especially if it doesn't cause a detriment or negative to that animal, there's no issue in rehoming. So especially like for reptiles that for oftentimes don't really know who you are and don't care, I don't think that there should really be the same stigma. I think it's a little bit different with mammals because they're so much more intelligent, and don't get me wrong, reptiles are really smart too. I have a gecko. I love him. I don't know. I think mammals often form a stronger bond with their owners. And the same can be said for some species of reptile, like maybe bearded dragons or like monitor lizards or skinks and tegus and things like that. But for the most part, reptiles don't really seem mind rehomed. Especially Victoria had like this beautiful bioactive setup for Saffron that she made. And I'm pretty sure Saffron was a rescue too. I think a lot of these animals, like crested geckos for example, can live like 20 to 30 years, potentially even longer. So it's really hard to think that far in the future, and as long as you can provide a good life for your animal, and when you are rehoming you go about it responsibly, I think that's a good thing. Where I don't support rehoming is I see a lot of people trying to like dump their animals really fast, and it's like, get this animal in 24 hours. They're often rehoming it for free. And other times, there's literally people trying to make a profit off of their animal, which is just terrible. So they'll want to sell the animal separately and all the enclosure and supplies separately because you can make more money that way. Sometimes they'll even purposely buy animals for the sole purpose of rehoming them later because they know that the animal is worth more than what the person is selling. I can see why rehoming has a bad stigma, but I think if you go about it responsibly, I really don't think that there's anything wrong with it. And I think rehoming before it gets to the point that you need to is what we should be encouraging, because if you're starting to lose passion in an animal, it's kind of like a ticking time bomb until the animal starts to be neglected, and neglect is a form of abuse. It'll maybe start with you just like getting more behind on trimming their nails and maybe going a couple days longer between cleaning their enclosures, and it typically just gets worse from there. And then at a certain point, the animal's core necessities are not being met. That is definitely a form of abuse, especially when kids go to college. I feel like there's so much stigma around rehoming when you go to college, but if you've given a great life to that animal up until that point, I really don't think it's anything that you should be ashamed of. I think it is hard, and if you're getting an animal and like you know that you're going to go out of state to college and you're going to be rehoming it in a couple of months or even maybe a year, I think it's a little bit hard. This is so crooked. I think maybe it's a little bit different if you know that you're going to be rehoming the animal in like less than a year. Even in that case, especially if it's like a rescue situation, I think it can often make sense to like rescue the animal, care for it as long as you can, and then find it another home. It's hard, especially with species like parrots that like often imprint on their owners. It might be better to let them sit in a rescue a little bit longer rather than being adopted and then brought back and adopted and brought back, because a lot of the times that's super traumatic and the bird's never really gonna recover. Also, I don't do my makeup like this, like ever. I'm bored, so I'm trying stuff out. Makeup is fun. That's what it should be. My nose looks stupid though. Oh gosh. Another thing I don't really understand about the pet community is pet rooms. I have a whole rant on this. I don't understand why you would want all of your pets in one singular room. I know when I move out, I want to have my pets like all over my apartment or my house or whatever, because I want to be able to hang out with my pets when I'm in the kitchen or when I'm in the living room watching TV. I don't want to have to go to like a separate area of my house just to see my animals. That feels more like a zoo to me. That doesn't feel like pets. I can understand why, because it's like very convenient, and especially if you have animals that kind of have odors to them, it's nice to be able to like close a door and not have to think about it for a little bit. But yeah, I don't love the concept of pet rooms. I do like some people whose like their reptile room is also their office, so they are spending a significant portion of their day in there. Yeah, not my favorite thing. I also feel like people don't talk about the dangers of housing different species together. Like rabbits and guinea pigs, I see like together in every single pet room. Rabbits actually carry a virus. I don't know if it's a virus. They have like some type of it's a bacteria. Rabbits carry this bacteria that they're immune to, but for a lot of other rodents, those rodents are not immune to it. So most of the time it's dormant in the rabbit, but they're still carrying it. And if anything happens, like a little bit of stress, or the rabbit happens to start showing symptoms like a runny nose, the other animals can get infected. I will admit that there's potentially a danger to even housing rabbits and sugar gliders. I've never had any issues, so I've just gone off of that. But I know especially when it comes to guinea pigs and chinchillas, if they catch the virus from the rabbit, they literally won't recover. I don't know. I don't think pet rooms work as well as people make them out to be. Like a lot of these times, these are completely different species that live like continents and oceans apart, and they would never interact, and you're having them in like glass cages like 6 inches apart. So I don't really think that's the best thing. I also feel like PetTube is just blatantly sexist towards women. I see so many comments that I don't think would be tolerated in any other part of the YouTube world besides PetTube. There is so much like extremely sexist stuff, and there's all these like degrading comments about like women and their appearance, and I don't know, I just think it's kind of sad. I feel like we're better than that as a community. It just sucks. It's tough to realize that not all people in the animal community are good people, because I really want to believe the best in them, because you share something so pure like loving these helpless creatures. There's just a lot of terrible people out there, and it's kind of the same for the pet community. This is really embarrassing, but I literally just discovered TJ Maxx. I've always been a huge fan of Ross, and I knew about TJ Maxx. I just like never been there before. And I went, and I have spent way too much money in their makeup section, because they have all this like really nice name brand makeup for crazy good deals. Like I just got this Bare Minerals blush, and that's so pretty. And I think it was like $10, and they're normally like 20 or something like that. So that's really cool. So I'm really excited about that. Another thing about PetTube that I don't get is like all the scheduling. And I feel like every single pet room tour, people have like the super elaborate schedule printed up on their walls. For one, I don't understand how people keep up with that. And I just feel like it's weird because, again, it's a pet. And this could just be a me thing because I'm not a huge fan of like scheduling and planning things ever. But it also just doesn't make sense to me to have like a super rigorous, intense schedule for owning a family member type pet. I can see why it's necessary, especially if you have like a lot of different reptiles. I don't know. I think it just goes to show how like weird the PetTube community is, that a lot of us have so many pets that we have to write stuff down to remember. And don't get me wrong, there are things that I have to do on a schedule. Like I clean the Labrador's litter box pretty much every 3 days, but it's something that I like write out. I come into the room, I see if it's messy, and it's usually messy every 3 days. So that's when I clean it, you know? I'm not sure how I feel about blush on the nose. I'm like trying it out. Also, what is everyone's consensus on TikTok? I was not a huge fan of it because I felt like it's so easy to blow up. So I feel like people were doing like the craziest things just in hopes of blowing up and going viral, especially like during this time when like most people's school is online and everything is so virtual. I think you often forget like the real consequences for stuff that's happening. So I feel like there's stuff that people wouldn't do normally because, you know, like they would have to go to school the next day and they're like, oh, that'd be embarrassing. But because everything's online, people are just like, oh, screw it. I guess that's kind of a good thing because people are being more themselves. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of like very dark humor and things like that on TikTok. I genuinely hope people are doing it just to blow up, because if they actually believe those things, I'm very worried for the state of the world. In saying that, I started posting about on TikTok and it's actually kind of fun, and I do like the community. I feel like things are a lot more freeform there and less structured. I feel like because literally anyone is able to blow up, I think a lot of the people in there genuinely have like the best personalities and they're so humble and down to earth. I feel like YouTube started out that way where it's just normal people, but now YouTube is pretty much a reality TV show of celebrities. And don't get me wrong, there's like also, I feel like TikTok is highly addictive, so I used to just like not go on there at all, because if I went, I would scroll for like hours. I don't know, it's fun. It's okay to do stuff that wastes time sometimes. I also feel like pet tubers don't quarantine. I mean, I think half of them don't know what it is. I remember at the beginning, people were getting really called out for it, especially these YouTubers were bringing like new animals in every single week, and people were like, you are going to kill off your reptile collection because you are getting animals from all these different places and you're not really doing enough to make sure that they're actually healthy. So I feel like now pet tubers don't really talk about it, and whenever they get a new animal, it takes them months to announce it, so the question of quarantine isn't really relevant. But I want to see these YouTubers' quarantine rooms, and I want to make sure you guys are actually doing your due diligence. I feel like a lot of small pet, not like small size, but people who make videos about like rabbits and guinea pigs and like small pets like hamsters and all that, I feel like a lot of them don't really understand why you need to quarantine. For those of you that don't know, you actually should know, because we're in a pandemic right now, so hopefully you understand what quarantine is and why it's so important. The same reason that it's important to us, it's important for the animals, because you don't want to be passing around mystery illnesses and things like that. I hope for the sake of the animals they are quarantining and just not talking about it, but I don't know, it's just weird that they literally don't show it at all. Another thing that kind of just annoys me, and this is less about big pet tubers, I just feel like it's smaller creators, it's how everyone misuses the term rescuing, because people be like, I rescued a hamster from PetSmart, and they literally like pay full price. I want to do a whole video about why you should shop at PetSmart, because I feel like a lot of PetSmart and Petco, because I feel like there's a lot of like misconceptions around there. I don't really shop there, but I think it's annoying that like every single pet tuber is like, don't shop at PetSmart and Petco. It's like, do you understand how basic economics, it's a weird word. Do you understand how basic economics work? I don't even think I do, but I feel like I understand it better than some of these people, because what they're saying literally doesn't make sense. But anyways, people will be like, I rescued a hamster from PetSmart. If you didn't rescue it, you bought a hamster from PetSmart. And sure, you're upgrading its life and everything, which is great, but at the end of the day, that's not a rescue. A rescue is usually when you get an animal for free, or you pay a very low adoption price. And even like buying animals off Craigslist and stuff, I can see why people classify that as a rescue, but a lot of the times it's just sellers rehoming their animal, and the animal's in really bad shape, but it's still not a rescue. You know, rescue, I don't know, it just annoys me. Especially the pet store ones. Like if you're rescuing an animal like from Craigslist or something like that, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think there's a lot of people who don't understand what they're getting in for. Also, no one really asked, but I feel like I should address it. I do have a mole here and I do have two here, but when I put makeup on, they kind of get covered up. I also do have one here. So I just like to like go over them a little bit with a little bit of eyeliner or eyebrow pencil. I'll do eyeliner if I'm filming because I feel like it shows up better, or I'll do eyebrow pencil in like real life if I feel like it. And I don't really have a mole here, but I think it's so cute and I really wish I did. So like if I'm drawing on other moles, might as well draw on one that I wish I had, you know? I also am gonna skip mascara. I only wear eyeliner because I hate wearing mascara and I feel like eyeliner kind of does that same stuff for me. So thank you guys for watching. Also, in case I get any questions about my hair, this is not my natural hair texture. I used these thingies from Amazon. I think they're really cool. I like the texture. I'm not too sure how much I like it on me, but I really wanted to try out something different, so I'm trying this out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next video. Let me know which of these opinions you agree with, or if you think all of these are just super petty and not relevant. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Bye!